Welcome to the Spike Camp podcast. Spike Camp is a free online community for hunters that support conservation. It's a great place to share stories and your experience with other hunters. As a member of Spike Camp, you get access to all of our hunting live streams, discussion channels, contests, hunter resources, and events that we host. Membership to Spike Camp is free. Our only ask is that you are a member of a hunting or conservation group before you register. Head over to spikecamp.com to join us. This episode of the Spike Camp podcast is brought to you in part by Frontiersmen Gear. Frontiersmen Gear was founded to build products for those people that are seeking true adventure in their lives. High quality, handmade knives and leather goods that are built right here in Canada with a lifetime warranty. Made by hand and built to use. Visit frontiersmengear.ca to see their available products and learn more.
Sheep season is almost here, and like many of you, it is my favorite time of year. We have a very special lineup of guests for this year's Sheep Camp series. Time is flying. I can't believe this. I can't believe I'm about to say it, but this is our third annual Sheep Camp series. And if you haven't already, I would encourage you to go through our podcast archives and listen to the previous Sheep Camps. We've interviewed some really cool sheep hunters over the years here, and there is a ton of gold buried in those podcasts. So if you're heading north for opener or a sheep hunt after opener, just download those and listen to them on the road. So tonight's guest is our friend Matt McCabe. Matt is a Wild Sheep Society of BC director, and it's safe to say he is an obsessive sheep hunter. Whenever I talk to Matt, it just seems like the only thing we talk about, or the first thing we talk about, is sheep hunting. So the title of this episode will suggest bighorn hunting and the obsession known as bighorn hunting. But as you guys are going to find out tonight, talking to Matt McCabe is all about all kinds of sheep hunting, and we're going to do just that tonight. So Matty, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor. I'm just looking through the list here, and there's some big names in the viewer section there. So feeling pretty honored to be on here. There's guys that have been doing it a lot longer than me, and this is pretty cool.
Yeah, we're so lucky. I say this all the time on the shows that, people have asked me over the years, where do you get your podcast guests from? And it's like, just look in the membership, man. That's where we got, our membership's not the biggest as far as platforms go out there, but it's the quality over quantity, and there is some hardcore, not only sheep hunters but mountain hunters and hunters in general. So totally agree with you. So, well, before we jump in, Matt, why don't you give us a quick biography on yourself? Just tell us a little bit about where you were born, raised, and how you got into hunting.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Lillooet. My family still is out there. Grew up hunting and fishing out there, everything outdoors there, being a part of any fish and wildlife groups that were in the town at that, I don't know, 20 years ago when I lived there, over 20 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But kind of just grew up being a part of those groups and hunting and fishing, and being involved in conservation work out there as a kid with my dad and his buddies and stuff was pretty cool. And then I got a little bit older and started playing sports, moved away to play hockey, and ended up in Kamloops and never moved back to Lillooet after. But I do still go out there and spend lots of time out that way. I definitely grew up sheep hunting a lot out in that area. And then it just kind of stuck with me, became an addiction, and I hunted bighorns for a long time before I knew anything about stones, and then you do your first trip to the north and you get really addicted to sheep hunting once you go up there. The north is a beast of its own. Yeah, that's me, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm curious then, was your dad or family sheep hunters too? You lived right with them there?
Yeah, my dad is into big sheep hunter. He has a lot of his buddies are though that I grew up hunting with, and they've really inspired me to get into it from a younger age, and got to tag along on lots of sheep bighorn hunts when I was younger, and yeah, and then I just
That's
started
cool.
doing it on my own, and yeah.
Nice. Well, we're gonna dig into the bighorn hunting side of your life here shortly. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about your role with the Wild Sheep Society of BC. I think you are, as far as I know, you still are the youngest board member. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that was the case for a while, if not still. And hats off to you for stepping up and making that commitment. I know you're a very valuable asset to the whole team over there. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your role with Wild Sheep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm on my second term as a director on the board now. I believe I'm the youngest guy, not by choice. That's just how the board works. I am currently sitting as a chair of membership. As of this year, it was Peter Gucci before me, and he's moved over to the Indigenous Relations chair. So I stepped up and took his spot this year. So fairly new to that. And then I sit on almost all of our subcommittees, and I was sitting on the Region 3 RWAC group, which is the Regional Wildlife Advisory Committee. But that has since recently folded due to a lot of political reasons that I won't get into. But yeah, that's me. As far as the
the membership role is super important. I mean, obviously, members are the lifeblood of the society and any charitable organization. How's membership going for Wild Sheep Society of BC? I know when I spoke to you guys back at the sheep show in Penticton, there was a pretty big movement. How's that going?
Yeah, I'd say it's still going good. This time of year is a little bit slower, just because everybody's gearing up for hunting season. But as hunting season winds down and we head into show season, things get busier again. We do have some membership drives on the go. I'm happy to talk about those if you'd like.
Yeah, please do, Matt. Please do.
Yeah, just for those that aren't aware, we have our current membership drive, which is any new life member purchase puts you in the draw for a brand new Fierce rifle, and then any new Monarch purchase, every $100 that you put towards a Monarch gives you one entry in the draw for a Gunworks. And then for those that were in Penticton, Big Joe Appel was on the stage, and he asked the room to make a pledge to try to get as many people as you can and refer them to the society to become a member. So we decided to make a drive out of that as well. So anybody that refers a member, but it puts you in the draw for a sturgeon trip. I don't think we've hammered that one on the socials just because there's been a lot going, and we don't want to overwhelm our social media account, but it's on the website if anybody's interested in looking at either of those.
Nice. Yeah, certainly some great incentives to join. I mean, if you don't really need an incentive to join based on all the work that gets done and the boots on the ground, but definitely new rifles will do it for sure, right?
Yeah, for sure. And if anybody ever has ideas on how we can better support increasing our membership, feel free to reach out and let me know. Always open to feedback.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly been something that's been a passion for Blake and I with Spike Camp, is trying to drive members to you guys and some of our other conservation partners. And we're just putting the final touches on our contest that we're going to launch hopefully tomorrow night. Blake, is that the plan?
Yep,
yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, so we're going to be launching a really cool giveaway starting tomorrow as well. And in order to get some points or entries in that membership at the Wild Sheep Society is one of the ways you can do it. So have you got an update for us, Matt? You were talking to Joe about some of the Wild Sheep updates.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of it for membership at the moment. We're working on some other stuff, but that'll be more towards show season.
Okay.
And then I was kind of move over to the volunteer side of things. We're running out of volunteer stuff now. We've done our Spence's sheep count. The shoe laps just wrapped up this weekend. We've done our first Fraser River count, but there is a upcoming Fraser River count. I believe it's this coming weekend, and then there's one in August. I think the dates are either on social media or on the website, but looking for volunteer help if anybody's around and not heading north hunting for opener. Okay. So that's where we're at with volunteer stuff. And then projects. Yeah, we've had a big projects year again. Pulled off another successful year of burning in the north, which is awesome. Got more work done on the Fraser this year. That's one of our legacy projects. That has been a super successful project. We're seeing super positive results. Lamb recruitment in certain areas is up to 40 to 60%, which is amazing.
Wow.
There was a few years of it being zero in some of those areas. So that is awesome. They have the Okanagan Seroptes project on the go. Pete is the lead on that project. So if you have questions about that, you could reach out to Pete and he'd be happy to answer those. And then we're starting some projects in the Kootenays and looking to start some more Region 3 projects, and lots on the go. It's been a busy projects year.
It's always a busy project year for you guys. You know, that to see the success in terms of the recruitment side of things, that's got to be pretty rewarding for you guys. Hey, as board members, just seeing it actually go in the direction that you work so hard for. For
sure. And obviously I have a soft spot, especially for that Fraser River project growing up out there. And yeah, it's super, super cool to see.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, congratulations to you guys and all the volunteers that go into that project and all of those projects. That's awesome. We've got some sheep aging seminars happening too, right? Isn't there one, Blake or Matt? When's the next one? It's tomorrow, right?
I think it's tomorrow. And there's one in the Lower Mainland tomorrow. Some have already been done, but I think the goal was to do one in each region of the province this year. And I don't know how many are done and how many more there are to go, but I'd say we're on the tail end of that, but there might be a few more.
Yeah, I think tomorrow night is Abbotsford Fish and Game Club, 7 o'clock. I think pre-registration is required. There's no charge for these. I'll just say this: if you're a sheep hunter or you're striving to be a sheep hunter, and you have not taken or sat in on one of these seminars, virtual or in person, they're fantastic. They really are really, really good. And the folks that put them on that deliver the seminars, I mean, top notch, right? I mean, I think it's good to go to one every year, to be honest. I think they're great. Okay, well, any more business you want to touch on, or are we saving some for Big Joe on?
No, we better save some for Big Joe on Thursday, or he's going to get mad at me.
Yeah, you don't want to steal his thunder, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's talk sheep hunting. That's why people are tuning in. They want to hear about it. Tell us a little bit about the early days when you were a kid and going on those sheep hunts. When did you buy your first sheep tag and start to get out after them yourself?
Yeah, so when I was younger, it was more, I maybe described this wrong, but when I was younger, it was more of me just tagging along a lot of that Fraser country. So doing a lot of day trips, that type of stuff. We did do some horse stuff when I was younger, into some more remote places, which was cool. But I moved away, so I had probably like a good 7-8 year break from kind of being exposed to it as a kid to actually getting back into it. And when I decided I wanted to get back into it, obviously I headed back out to where I had done it in the past. And most of the time I was by myself and I didn't know much. I'm not going to lie to you. But you learn a lot of hard lessons out there. I think you learn from your mistakes and it makes you a better hunter. I had very subpar gear. I was not very effective at glassing. I didn't know how to age sheep. I was really starting from scratch, which was, looking back now, it's really cool, but definitely probably lost the chance at some good rams because of it. But that's sheep hunting, and that's the way it goes. And you learn from your mistakes, and I think it just makes you a better hunter in the long run. But yeah, so when I decided to get back into sheep hunting with a tag in my pocket, that was I probably would have been in my early 20s, probably like 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there when I first decided to get back into it. And I did it every year. And I guess I'm stubborn. When I start something, I really want to accomplish what I set out to do. And I stuck with it every year until I got one. And I think it took me 7 years before I killed my first general open bighorn. Yeah, which was a long time. And I'm giggling because I have a buddy in the participants here tonight I think he's going on year 12. So wow. he knows the pain that goes with it.
I am very familiar with that pain. I think this is my, I don't know, 10th, being the 9th or 10th sheep hunt this year, but there certainly is more to it than that. Let's talk a little bit about bighorn versus stones. I think when most people talk about sheep hunting in BC, let's face it, more often than not, I think the focus is on stone sheep hunting. That seems to be where, like, if you were to line up 100 sheep hunters, I think there would be a majority of them were out there trying to go after bighorns, going after stones. But bighorns are certainly as obsessive from the hunter's perspective. Those that pursue the bighorn in BC are very obsessive. What do you think makes hunting bighorns such a unique challenge versus other sheep species, particularly, like I said, in BC?
Yeah, I think I would never want to say that one is easier than the other. I think both subspecies present their own challenges, and there's also variables to where you're hunting bighorns. Some spots are definitely that I've found to be easier hunting conditions than others, for sure. The other thing with bighorns, especially in BC, we have a lot lower density populations that get a lot of pressure. They're really skittish animals because there's not a big population and there's a lot of people pushing them around. The bighorns down where I hunt them quite often like to use the timber, and that's not something that I'm used to from hunting stones up north. And then just like I find that the terrain is completely different from the north to down here. There's big differences there. The lack of water down here can be a challenge, but you also get that in the north. The one thing that you don't get in the north that sucks down here is the rattlesnakes, and I'm a magnet for them. They just love me, and I have a problem with them every year, but have not been bitten yet, fortunately. And the other thing about the north is the weather. We generally get nicer weather down here. So there's lots of, I think each hunting stones and hunting bighorns both present their own challenges, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I heard a rumor that snakes are not the only predator that like to pursue you. There's one with 4 legs, fur, and teeth that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah. I've had some close calls with those guys too.
I think we all have, and if you haven't, it's coming because there just seems to be more of them. We're not going to unpack that tonight, but you touched on some of the challenges with regards to bighorns and the terrain, and you mentioned water. Is water something that's a challenge just for the sheep or for the hunter when hunting them?
I think more so for me. I think that it can actually benefit you as a bighorn hunter, because those sheep live in a desert and they're reliant on water too. So quite often focusing in on water, I found has helped me find where rams are living in some of that country down there. There's sometimes there's long distances between water, and those sheep need to come to it sooner or later. So it's helped me find them. But just as far as like backpacking goes into that country, it can be challenging with no water and having to pack a lot in and out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and especially if it's hot too, right? I mean, the Bighorn season, it's pretty short, right? Isn't it like 40 days long for the over the counter
Yeah,
Bighorns? Yeah.
yeah. I think it depends where you are, but I think the only general open is in the interior of the province now, and the season is September 10th, October 20th here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can get all kinds of weather. I mean, it could be really hot, or it could be cold, it could be snowy, be anything in that time frame, right? So,
Yeah.
so our Bighorns, and I know I keep referring to Bighorns in BC versus other areas, and I guess we should focus on, well, when we're talking about Bighorn hunting with Matt, we're talking about interior more than anything, as opposed to. I don't know. Have you done much in the southeastern part of the province? Not really. Hey.
Nah, I'm an interior guy for sure.
Okay, so that for those that don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, we actually have a desert area here in BC in the central part of the province, lower half of the province, sorry, and it can be very much desert, like you said. It can have rattlesnakes. It's certainly got cactus, and it's got limited water sources, and it's perfect terrain for bighorn. They seem to love it. Do you find in the short season of that 40-day period, is there a pattern that these sheep are following? Or like as far as strategy goes, what do you when you're looking for sheep and hunting them in that 40 days? Let's talk about the strategy. Like, how do you locate them? What are you looking for?
Yeah,
What are the
honestly,
tendencies?
yeah, I think the number one thing is time spent doing it. Some of the best advice I ever got from a very successful old timer sheep hunter was, if you want to kill a bighorn, then you got to hunt bighorns. And I think that's always the biggest challenge. Sometimes you'll sit down there for a full season. I think I hunted, I think it was a couple of years ago, I hunted almost the entire season, had it all off work, and I didn't end up getting one that year. And it can be I guess it can be a huge mental grind when you're sitting down there struggling. You might go weeks without seeing any good rounds, and you might hit cell service, open it up, and all your buddies are up north killing stone sheep, or they're elk hunting, killing goats, moose, whatever it is. And I think that can play games in your head, because everybody wants to be successful and everybody wants to fill their freezers and have a good time. And I think with especially bighorn hunting, you go through a lot of lows before you get a high. So it's just like the time spent doing it and being on the glass. Like, I can't say that enough. Like those bighorns like to use the timber, and a lot of the time they're not out in the open, so you got to be on the glass, and you might only be able to catch glimpses of them. And yeah, just time spent doing it is the biggest thing.
So essentially, they're not patternable to any degree, really, right? So you just have to sit on them all day and hope you see them and know they're in that area, right?
Yeah, I think I've had years where I have been able to develop patterns with them, and then other years those patterns just weren't there. That being said, there's been some big changes, like big habitat changes. There's been big fires. Weather's been different year to year. Predation's at an all-time high in these areas. Lots of things changing on the landscape that maybe affect their patterns, but I think sometimes you can get lucky and maybe pattern them, whether that's coming to or from water, feeding areas, bedding areas, that type of stuff. But I've yet to do the same thing 2 years in a row, and it worked for me.
What are the predators that are impacting them in the interior?
Cats for sure. The wolves, bears, coyotes, birds, you name it. We got everything down here, unfortunately.
Cats are a big problem for sheep, though.
Yeah. The birds are really, I think, harder than we think on them, especially during the lambing season as well, too. But yeah, cats and now the wolves have really moved into some of these areas and definitely taken their toll on them as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's something that falls by the wayside more often than not is predator hunting. You know, I think I'm guilty of it too. I go into the predator season talking a big talk. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then life gets in the way, and it's pretty easy to drop that, you know, that reason to be out predator hunting for something else, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess some of the challenges I would think are also going to be the maturity restrictions on those sheep. Even though it's an over-the-counter tag, it's pretty restrictive, right? Which means you've got to be super careful on judging and determining age. Maybe tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that and how you go about it.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that we don't have an age rule for bighorns, but that's the way it goes. I also see both sides of it, that bighorns can definitely be challenging to age sometimes, and I would hate to see an increase in rams getting taken away because of it. But yeah, as far as horn curl goes, it can be challenging. I think just finding a legal ram that meets the horn requirements is a challenge. A lot of those sheep broom back really bad and never even get close to full curl. And quite often, the only ones you can find that are close to full curl are the super young rams, and not the ones you want to be taking off the landscape. But yeah, I've always found aging to be easier for me in the mountains. I prefer to shoot off age, and I'll explain why.
Please do.
A lot of it, yeah, I've always found with stone sheep, if you're going to shoot one off curl, a lot of the time they're blown past the curl requirement. But with bighorns, they're always right there. Like, I think it's like a 1% of bighorns on general open are going to blow past the legal requirement. So it can be a struggle. It can be a grind. It can be tough to get in close to these sheep. It can be tough to get level with these sheep, and you really have to be sure before you pull the trigger. And yeah, it took me a long time to figure out how to do this effectively. And even the day I killed my first bighorn, there was a lot of time spent making sure that thing was legal, because it wasn't legal by a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the regulations as a newer sheep hunter, you go, wow. You can just imagine how dicey that would be in the field to try to age them properly, determine maturity and all that. Any tips for that when you're out in the field?
Yeah, I think just trying to get as close as you can, trying to get as level as you can. Angles can really make it challenging they can either make them look bigger or shorter. So yeah, just getting in as close as you can and as level as you can has always worked for me. And I find using my phone scope helps quite a bit too, taking as much video and photos as you can, because it can be challenging even for experienced guys to make those calls off of a spotter when you don't have age to fall back on. You only have the horn curl, so that, yeah, it can be very challenging.
So what's the I don't know the answer to this. We always talk about it with stone sheep, but are there many mistakes made annually with people taking underage sheep, bighorns?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's always a few. I think there's a lot more guys stone sheep hunting than there is bighorn hunting, and I think and there's also lower density populations of bighorns. So, but there's definitely a few every year, and it's sad to see and kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, for sure. Private land's also an issue, right? When you're hunting bighorns, there's a lot of ranches and private land in that country. And I know I've talked to lots of guys where they'll be on, well, not lots, but I've talked to a few that have been watching a certain ram for a period of days or weeks and waiting for that right opportunity, and then all of a sudden that sheep's gone and it's sitting on private land, living the life, right? So
Yeah,
that's
for
also
sure,
a challenge. Are you seeing more bighorn hunters out in the field in the last few years? I mean, you go pretty
Yeah,
well every year.
for sure. Yeah. The last few years, there's definitely been a big increase. I think a lot of people have stone sheep and now want to get into bighorn hunting, which is cool to see, but drives up the competition for sure. There's a lot in a lot of those areas. There might not even be a legal ram. There might only be one, two, or three in that whole unit. So it drives up the competition for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no secrets to how you beat that. You just got to be there more, and you got to be there earlier, right? There's no other way around it.
And luck. Luck is always a part of it too. But I've always been a firm believer in putting in your time and getting rewarded, and it seems to work with me. So that's what I do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about your journey, your 7-year journey to get your ram. Tell us about the first couple years, maybe touch on the early years, some lessons that you learned, and then roll into the actual story of that ram. And I know Blake's got some pictures that you sent me. You've got those, Blake? We can tee them up as it comes up, and you can pop them up on the screen. So I'll let you go, Matt.
Okay, yeah. So started young and green, and back in my early 20s, there was a lot, I'd say a lot more bighorns around than there is nowadays. Disease has taken its toll and I think we've taken a lot of these disease sheep out of the population to prevent spread, and predation has increased. So when I was, there was a lot more bighorn and a lot less pressure, sorry, when I first got into it. And I think I'd get into a lot of stalks and blow them because I didn't know what I was doing, or I'd finally have a stalk work out, but couldn't determine legal or not. Maybe it was a lack of confidence or just not being able to get the right angle or get level with these sheep. And I found that every year I'd just build off of my mistakes, and it seemed like I was getting better and better every year. And then I had a couple of tough years. The year and the year before I killed my first one, but it was kind of funny. I was sitting in Kamloops at the bar the night before Bighorn opener, the year I killed mine, and my buddy asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you think we should go hunt bighorns tomorrow?" And it's like 1 a.m. And I said, "Sure, let's go." And so we went to bed at like 2 or 3 and got up at 5 or 6 and drove down, and that first morning found a band of 18 rams and went in. We tried to put a stalk on those rams, so had to go a long way in to get after them. Spent all day doing it just to blow them out, and that's the way it goes, I guess. But I didn't want to give up that easy, so I kept looking for those sheep, and I think 5 days later I found them again. And I had my good buddy Milik with me, and he came down from Prince George. I called him last minute, and so it's kind of funny how it worked out. I knew that they were in the area because I had seen them the day before, and then that morning we got up above them where we thought they were going to be anyway, and we glassed this basin and couldn't find sheep. And Milik had packed up his stuff, and he said, "They're not here. We need to go. We spent enough time here." And I was just kind of panning through my spotter because I had it set up, looking at some sheep on the other side. And I was just kind of like panning through the bottom of the basin, and there's deadfall everywhere from all the burnt trees and stuff. And I caught movement, and it was a horn tip that tipped sideways. And I was like, "No way." And we looked, and then all of a sudden it was like ram, 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 ram. And all 18 or whatever of them were bedded couple hundred yards below us, which was pretty cool. So we kind of worked down the ridge, had wind in our favor, and tried to get as level as we could with them. But it took us a long time to decide if this ram was legal. Just couldn't. Where he was bedded, he'd always bed with his head behind a tree or something like that, or bed at an angle that wouldn't work in our favor. And then finally we got what we were looking for. About, I think it was 5 or 6 hours later. It was a long time of sitting there on these sheep, and I think we were at 130 yards, and it was rainy and wet and foggy, and finally got what we were looking for, and yeah, pulled the trigger and got my first one, and it was pretty exciting.
So let's unpack that for a minute. So this was year number 7.
Yeah.
And so this is the one year where you didn't go as hard as you normally do, or normally had gone as far as days in the field. What did you put in as far as days in the field, say the 3 or 4 years prior to that every year? Like how hard were you working for that in years prior?
I'd say at a minimum, like I'd always have 2 to 3 weeks of bighorn time in for sure. I think it was the year before I had almost the entire season and didn't get one, which was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow. And the year before I was on a good ram. It wasn't the one I killed, but it was a good ram, and I never saw that ram again, unfortunately. But I just couldn't make it happen, and I was very disappointed on October 20th when the season ended. And
yeah,
little did I know I was going to get rewarded the next season, which worked out awesome.
So when you did kill your ram after the time in the bar and that, how many days in the field did you have on that season?
I think I killed it. I can't remember for sure, but it was the fifth or sixth day of the season. And I went back to work for one of those days. I had to go back to work for one of those days. So only, I'd say 3, 4, or 5 days into the season that year, and got one, which was awesome.
Nice. Well, that's probably some sheep karma coming your way for all the hard work you've done over the years and volunteering and everything else. So we'll just chalk it up to that, eh?
Yeah.
So
just
Blake,
time spent.
yeah, let's pull up the picture of that ram. I think a lot of people have seen it. Have you got it handy there, Blake?
Yeah, you betcha.
Oh yeah, he's a beauty. So Matt, tell us about this ram as far as age. I mean, he looks totally dirty, but because he's living in a burn. But tell us a little bit about this sheep.
Yeah. 8-year-old bighorn. In the area that I killed this ram, the rams, I think if you can, down there nowadays anyways, it's pretty tough to find anything that's beyond 8 years old. Or if you can, they're probably going to be broomed back really badly. So I was super happy to find this ram and for it to all work out. But yeah, he was short on his right side, but made it on his left.
Yeah, you can see the left side. It flares out a little bit too. He's a beautiful ram.
He was going to lose that tip. There wasn't much left, not a ton left holding that. So I got really lucky, even after I shot him, because he did roll down a ways that didn't break, and or he hadn't lost it yet.
Yeah. Oh, he's nice and heavy too. Deep curls. That beautiful ram. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
So have you been on any other bighorn successful harvest since this one?
Yes. So I'll backtrack a little bit. The day I killed this, we were going to try to double header. It just didn't work out, and I promised my buddy Millick that I would do whatever it took to help him get one, because he helped me get one. The same year I killed mine, we went back for the closer, I think the closer 10 days, and we did get it on another ram, and he ended up missing it on the last day of the season at 400 yards, I think, which was a heartbreaker. And I said, don't worry, bud, I'm still good for it. We'll come back next year and we'll try again. And he came back the year after, and I helped him get his first bighorn too, which was awesome. And then I helped the girl who had the Kamloops Lake tag. She had reached out telling me that she had the tag, and it was the first year the odds going to like 3,000 to 1 or whatever they are nowadays. Yeah. And
crazy. She
had some health problems, and asked if I'd be willing to come and give her a hand. And of course, I'm not going to say no to getting to go out and help somebody with a lottery tag. So that was that was special for her. She killed a giant California bighorn off of Kamloops Lake. I think it went.
We
I think
got that picture too. I
Yeah,
think, right? Let's pull
yeah.
it up. Wait.
I think it scored 178 or just shy of 178 or something like that. Yeah, beautiful
Oh
bighorn
yeah,
that we killed off Kamloops Lake, and
it's beautiful.
yeah, she was super super happy. It was a really cool hunt.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about that tag. I mean it's a little bit different than the lottery tags that you see down in the U.S. where these guys will go out and pay outfitters to basically have one tied up to a tree almost, right? Up here, it's still anybody that wins that tag usually has no problem finding someone to help. And
For sure.
you guys did a good job. How many days did you hunt that?
I think we scouted for a day before the season, and we killed this the second day into the season of her draw. It was a November tag.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful sheep. Do we have pictures of Nick's ram as well? His bighorn? Did you send me one?
Yeah. I think it's me holding it, but yeah, it should be in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, this one, I think I know which one it is. It's that one, right?
That one there. Yeah.
Look at the body on this sheep. I mean, the mass, period.
Big bodied,
So,
yeah, but he was thrilled with this. He'd put a lot of time into bighorns over the years. Maybe not as consistent as I have, but
yeah,
it had just never really panned out for him. And then yeah, he was really excited to get his first.
well, Nick has killed a lot of sheep and been on. I mean, we've listened to some of the stories that he's got and how many hunts he's got. And he's one of those guys that he just gets excited talking about sheep, right? So
yeah, he lives for it.
He absolutely does. Well, that's awesome. So how many bighorn kills then? You've been on 3 successful ones, is that right?
No, 1, 2, 3. I don't know, probably 6 or 7, Chuck.
Okay.
Over the years, yeah.
Isn't it great just to see someone else harvest? Like it's just so cool. Especially a tough hunt like that, just finding all those planets got to line up.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about gear. Is there a dramatic difference in your gear setup from bighorn hunting to sheep hunting in the north?
It depends on the time of year. I would say if it's an early season stone sheep hunt, I think the gear is pretty similar. But hunting stones late season, you just don't know what you're going to get for weather. You could have plus 20 or minus 20. So you got to be a little bit more prepared for those if you're going remote for those late season stone sheep hunts. So that's probably the only time it changes.
Yeah, and essentially in that country, it's more or less deer hunting gear. If you're do you camp a lot when you're bighorn hunting, or are you day tripping?
No, I usually camp, but I'm kind of funny. It just depends. If I'm glass, a lot of the time I actually just glass from my truck, so I'll sleep in my truck. But I do have a lot of spots, and it's really unfortunate that you can't glass them without having to backpack into them. But it's also kind of cool at the same time. So it just depends where I'm hunting, I guess. And sometimes you have to backpack in to scout them. So I'm in there for a few days at a time backpacking. And then if you get on rams, you might be in there for a week or longer. But a lot of the time I'm just sleeping up in my truck.
And then when you are packing in, you're packing water. Probably.
Yeah. Depending where you're going, but yeah.
Awesome. Okay, how about tips and advice for bighorn hunters in BC? What would you offer?
I think just like I said before, time spent doing it. If you want to kill a bighorn, you got to hunt bighorns. And time on the glass, you can spend the time, but if you're not using that time effectively, it's not going to pay off for you either. So you need to spend time doing it, and you need to spend time glassing, and just hold your head high through all the lows, and eventually you do get rewarded. Some people get lucky, it might happen fast, or it could take years, but just keep your head high and battle through the lows, and eventually you get that high, and it's pretty cool when it happens.
And how fortunate are we when you think about it that you can buy this tag and anybody can try, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, there's draws and there's lots of different LEH opportunities as well. But I think of it, I've never actually hunted bighorns. Blake and I have talked about it a lot, and our sheep hunting career is only, well, mine goes back now, I don't know, 7, 8 years, I guess. And I just never have spent the time. But talking to people that do it and obsess over it, and I say obsess, I kind of mean obsess because there's certain individuals, and we know a few of them, Matt, that have gotten to the point where they've either purchased real estate in sheep country, for bighorns, or they've made a very dedicated commitment to be there during that, that 40-day season, right? Like that's hardcore. Like it's really hardcore. And I think if you look at it, if you're a new sheep hunter, this is a great training ground that doesn't cost as much money as a traditional stone sheep hunt in the Northwood. And you talk about the lows, right? So in the case of your lows as a bighorn hunter, the low would be, well, you got bad weather, or you didn't see any rams today, but you can always go home or be home the next day, right? And your cost of entry into that for that day of hunting was a tank of fuel and your time. If you're going on a stone sheep hunt and you've never hunted sheep before, you've got a lot more cost up front, and you've got to buy your transportation, whether I guess if you're driving up to the north, you're going to go in. If you're doing a walk-in, you're just going to pay for your fuel and accommodations. But if you're flying or taking a jet boat or going with a packer, you've got a lot more cost. You got the time away from home, which realistically, I don't know, what's your average what is your average duration of a stone sheep hunt, Matt, when you guys go? What do you typically take?
I'd say at least 14 days minimum normally. When I was younger, it used to be just 7 to 10, but we just are a little bit more selective than we used to be. And doing trips a little differently than when we were younger. So I'd say, we always try to have at least 14 days in there. And I mean, if you kill rams or you want it to come out early, you can, but just as far as time off goes, we like to have that 14-day allotment.
Sure. And that's 14 days round trip, I'm assuming, like by the time you leave home and come back, because you got some travel time mixed in there. Probably,
yeah,
right?
sometimes it's included, sometimes it's not, but we try to do 14 minimum now.
So if you think about it from the bighorn hunting perspective, you could still have that 14 days off, say 2 weeks off from work, but you're probably not going to spend 14 days backpacking for bighorns unless you're ultra hardcore, right? I guess you could.
I mean it's a little bit different in BC, like in Alberta for sure. Like it's a lot different out there, but where in the interior for sure, you're going to be hard pressed to find anywhere except for maybe a couple ranges where you could actually backpack for 14 days without just looking at the same spot over and over again.
Right. Let's talk about the actual tactics for hunting them. So as far as glassing goes, what is your I guess your strategy with glassing? And this would apply for stones and bighorns. Are you a grid search type of guy, or how do you do it?
I'd say I think it's tough because I never think about that when I'm out in the field, but I'd say most of the time grid searching is what I do. But I think when you've hunted these areas for a long time, you kind of just more or less know where to look. I think obviously you want to look over everything, but a lot of the time, if the rams are going to be in these spots, they're going to be in a pretty close area to where they always are in there. So I'd say when I was younger, for sure, grid searching, and I think I still do grid search everything, but you kind of just see rams in the same spots consistently if they're in the spot that you're glassing.
So what are you looking for as far as bedding areas. If you're walking into this basin and you know there's, sheep in there traditionally, where are you going to look first if you're looking to find them in beds?
Yeah. There's some variables there for sure. Just with the weather, it can be plus 30 or minus 10 throughout the duration of a season. So in the early season when it's hot, those rams like being up in the timber. They like the shade. Or they're sometimes you get lucky and they're close to water and bedding in escape terrain, or I don't know. It's always kind of been different, but there's a lot of variables with the weather. I find when it's hot, they head for that timber for sure. They want to be in the shade and the cover
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of these areas that I'm hunting.
Now, obviously, you know of at least 18 rams that like burns. I'm saying that as a joke, but do you find them in burns? Like, is that a normal place to see sheep?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think in some of those places that have, I think how old's that Lytton burn now, and like all the Lillooet burns and everything along the Fraser, like.
Yeah,
I think
within,
it's
well, it was pre-COVID when that big fire was on, right? Like 19, I think. I don't know. Blake
yeah. So the
Blake will
feed,
fact check this.
yeah, the feed's really good in a lot of these burns now, and that's not just for sheep; that's for everything. And yeah. So you'll definitely see them using these burns, feeding in these burns, traveling through the burns. They got good visibility in there, which helps them avoid predators. And yeah, so they're definitely using it.
Yeah, for sure. No, glassing, I guess it depends again on where you're hunting them. Like you said, you do it from your truck. Do you prefer to be below, above, same level? I guess that's probably dependent on the terrain, right, and the spot.
Yeah. If I prefer to be above sheep. That's just how I like to be. I like to hunt from above if I can and work down in on them. I've just always struggled, especially with bighorns, and their eyesight's just so amazing, and I always struggle coming up from below them if there's not enough cover to get up level with them. So I always find a lot of the time they're not looking up as much as they're looking down, and I've had better success coming from above for sure.
Yeah, and I think that applies to sheep, just period, right? I mean, those eyes, they're just so strong.
Yeah, and I mean I think there's, like I said before, there's guys in here that have a lot more experience than I do, but that's just from my experience. I've always found it easier to come from above than below. If it's a possibility, it's not always possible.
Yeah, for sure. Walk us through a day in the life of, say, day 31 of your 40-day season bighorn hunting. What does a day in the life look like?
I'm probably struggling. My truck's probably full of garbage. I'm probably eating gas station food or dehydrated meals. Probably I think if you're on day 30 or a few weeks into a sheep season and you haven't had much luck, it can wear on you. Like I said, especially when all your buddies are out killing stuff and filling their freezers, and bighorn season lands right in the middle of when everything else is open. So yeah, I'm probably struggling if I've been out there that long, but just try to stay positive and put the time in, and hoping to get rewarded, knowing that the chances of it happening probably aren't good, but you can be surprised. Like, you can go weeks without seeing anything, and then just overnight a ram can show up that you didn't even know was living there. And we've had that happen, and all of a sudden you're on a good ram and your luck has changed.
Do they run a feeding cycle like mountain sheep do, like stones and thin horns?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. I think that you can catch sheep for sure. There could be cycles with these sheep, but trying to pick out those cycles can be challenging with all the constant habitat changes, disease, predation, everything else. So
Right. Okay, so starting in the morning, say you're bighorn hunting, Are you out there before daylight? Is it a after daylight play? What's your strategy for a day in the sheep field?
Oh, you got that first light and last lights are definitely important, especially if it's hot. Like if you're in that 30+ degree weather down there, like those sheep aren't moving a lot. And if they are going to move, it's generally going to be in the morning, the golden morning hour, the evening golden hour. So definitely up early and out late, but also just time spent. Like you can get lucky and find them, even if they're not moving, find them bedded, and it can be a grind of glass when it's hot, but you got to put the time in for sure.
Yeah, I bet. How about stalking them? Is there a difference in the approach, I guess, based on the terrain, or just stalking them as an animal period? Is it the same as any other animal? Do you do anything different?
No, I think it's just stalking them as an animal. I think if they're in smaller bands, it tends to be a little bit easier than if they're in those like 18, like 15 to 25 or however many rams are in there. There's a lot more eyes, which can make putting a stalk on a lot more challenging. Generally, if any of those rams see you, they're going to take off. That being said, sometimes the really young rams are dumb, and they might know you're there, but not really care, and you can still get in on those sheep. But a lot of the time, if any of those, like mine, for example, any of those 18 sheep see you, they're probably busted and running.
Right. Do you find them more spooky or less spooky than northern sheep?
I think from my experience, I think the bighorns are definitely a bit more skittish. I think that's just strictly due to lower density populations and guys chasing the same bands of sheep over and over again in a short duration of a hunting season. So I find those bighorns to be exceptionally skittish. That being said, sheep are sheep, and they're all skittish to a degree. I just find sometimes those bighorns are extra skittish.
So tell us, there has to be one for sure. I bet you there is a bighorn that got away story, one that you pursued on one of those rough years. Did you have that happen?
Yeah, I have a few of those for sure. I think there was the ram that I kind of talked about the year before mine. It was a really nice one, and I unfortunately never got to age it, but it looked like a really old ram. He was double broomed and legal, and a ram that you dream about when you think bighorns. And I still to this day look for that ram, but I'm sure he's passed on of old age. But yeah, I just with where he was living and the timber he was in, I just could never get to him. Whether he'd always be gone before I got to the last place that I had spotted him from across, or I must have busted him coming in or something. But yeah, it just didn't work out.
So how many times were you watching this guy? How many times did you see him?
I saw him 2 or 3 times before I put the stock on him, and then I only got to try the one stock, and I'm pretty certain I never saw him during that stock, but definitely heard some rocks rolling, and I'm certain that I blew him out of there going in. Whether, don't know if he heard me coming in, wind, whatever it was, but yeah, didn't like us coming in and took off.
What about pre-season scouting or off-season scouting? Do you spend time doing that?
Yeah, for sure. I think less nowadays just because life's a little bit busier than it used to be, but I definitely would go down out of season and look around. I think just like any other animal, the rams get horny, and big rams might be the only time of year that you see them is in November or December, and it's a good time to go out and look at what's around. And if you find a good ram, it kind of gives you a target to focus on and go after. And I find that it helps with motivation as well, knowing that there is a good one in there somewhere, and you just got to keep grinding, and hopefully he shows up sooner or later.
Yeah, all you have to do is drive through the Fraser Canyon, like you said, in November on a cold morning, and you'll know what's in the area. I mean, you see them especially if there's a little skiff of snow and you're driving through, we have a place up in the Caribou, and I'm up there all the time. And it's to the point now where, you know, when I get to the edge of the canyon, say in Lytton, it's better off that I just pull over and let my wife drive, because one of these days I'm gonna end up in the river or over the bank. It's crazy how many sheep just come out of the woodwork later on in the season, and you see some absolute crankers when you're going through that country. It's awesome.
For sure.
And the general population's doing pretty well, right?
I think it depends. It depends where you're looking, but overall, I'd say things are trending in a better direction for sure. Like I said earlier in the call, lamb recruitment's getting better, but there still are some untreated zones that we're working on getting done this year. It's just we haven't had the snowpack to help pull off these basically test and remove projects in these areas, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because if it's almost a waste of money to go in and treat just like part of the herd. We're hoping to it's more cost effective to have the whole herd there and be able to go in and do them all at once.
So is that winter time's the best then for that? Like winter?
Yeah, for sure. Like usually December or January, but we've been trying to do it the last couple of years and haven't been successful. But hopefully this is the year, and we need the snow because it pushes them down out of the higher country, out of all the timber and the places you can't get to them with a chopper. So hopefully we can pull it off this year.
What do you know about migration? Like, do they travel a lot?
I think, yes, I will say there are not all of them, but some do for sure, and they've seen that data on the collars. You can have rams show up on the Fraser, for example, that have come a long way to get there, and they winter there and move back post winter. So it's kind of cool because you might see rams that you didn't know were in that country, or maybe came out of some country that you I know there's a few areas that I've been wanting to get back into and check out some of the trickier access country, and some of those rams definitely come from that country, but there's cons that go with that too, because it definitely worsens the transmission of disease if those areas are untreated.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is you might target that herd, and if you don't have it at the right time, they could have a transient come in from 50-60K away in another herd, and he didn't get treated or she didn't get treated. It's just a crapshoot, I guess.
Yeah. And those rams travel, well, even the ones that aren't migrating in, they will travel far in search of ewes too. So that also doesn't help. Can also contribute to spread of Moby out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Am I missing anything on bighorns? Can you think of anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, I think you got it all.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about stone sheep hunting. I know this is, like I said earlier in the show, this is a big passion of yours as well, and you do a lot of sheep hunting with buddies in the north. How many years did you sheep hunt stones before you pulled the trigger?
I got a stone on my first trip, which was cool, really cool. But like I said, I didn't know much about stones. I went with my buddy Kyle Southgate, and he had been doing it for a long time. And I was fortunate that he took me and helped me get one my first time doing it, which was awesome. And then that sparked a whole new addiction. And now I feel like I can't take a year off of doing a stone sheep hunt. Yeah. I think I arguably love it more than bighorns, but
I mean, there's a lot there with a stone sheep hunt, right? As we all know, it's not just the sheep themselves, it's the country, it's the adventure, it's the process, the planning. Let's pull up that picture, Blake, of Matt's ram. Well, Matt, tell us the story on this sheep. Even though it was your first year, I'm a little envious, because I'm definitely not on my first year of stones. But tell us about this hunt and this ram. You should be able to find that one, Blake. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, went with Kyle, and yeah, we ended up doing a trip off the highway that year, which was it was a cool, very cool experience for me, just driving up from the south to the north. And I don't think I'd ever been past Fort St. John at the time, and you get up into the mountains up there, and it is it's eye opening. There's a lot of wildlife and big country, and I yeah, I don't know how better to describe it than that, but it was really really cool and this whole new experience to me. And we went in, and I think we got this ram on like day 4 or 5. It was pretty early in the trip, and yeah, I was stoked. It was blown past on full curl, and yeah, I was just super happy.
Yeah, he's got a lot going there. He's deep and heavy all the way through, carries his mass well. What did he age out at, Matt?
This one was, I think it was yeah, he was 7. My first ram, he was my first ram, and he was 7, because I shot this before my Bighorn, this one, but he was 7. And I still didn't know how to age rams back when I killed this thing, but he was 3 inches legal on curl, and I'd been hunting sheep for a long time, and I was still to this day look at that ram, and it was, yeah, love it. It was cool.
No, that's a beautiful ram. That's a a great specimen of a first ram. Anybody that passes that on their first one, I don't know. I mean, he's cool. He's very cool looking sheep. Was that the first ram that you saw, the first stone ram, or were you guys in on other sheep on that hunt?
I think we saw about 50 rams that trip.
Wow.
And we were actually had our eyes on a different ram, but there was another hunter in there who was in ahead of us, and he actually shot that ram the same day. And this one poked out up above our camp the morning that we were going to go after the other one. So we went up and shot this one instead. It all just kind of worked out.
All right. Well, walk us through that day. Tell us how that day went.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I think we woke up and we're drinking our coffee and started glassing from the tent. And all of a sudden it just happened fast. It was just rams a few hundred yards up above the tent that had come over the top. And so we decided to work our way up there and got level with them and ended up shooting him at 300 yards. It all just happened really fast that morning, and it was cool. I don't know. So there's just something about your first round that's really special. And I look at that picture and I remember most of that trip like it was yesterday. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I bet. All right. I've got some questions about your first sheep hunt. So how far was your hike? Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking for a pin on a map, but how many days, how long, how many kilometers?
This one was camp? Yeah, I think this one, I want to say we were about 17 kilometers from the truck, so give or take, somewhere in there. Yeah, so not too far.
Now, I know you're a gear guy and you're a detail guy when it comes to your gear, your food, your preparation, all that stuff. What did your gear setup look like back on this trip? What did your pack weigh? And how heavy was this pack on the way out?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was still pretty green with gear back then, and had a lot of subpar gear at the time. I think my pack going in was like 75 pounds, and I ended up dumping all my food out, or the remaining food, because we came out after we killed this one. And I don't know for sure, but I imagine our packs were well over 100 pounds. I remember it not being a very fun hike out of there, but it was also kind of my first time harvesting an animal that far away from like your vehicle or your quad or whatever. And I definitely learned some hard lessons. Got home and purchased lighter gear, and I think you need to go on a few of these trips before you learn what you're gonna use and what you're not gonna use. I think everyone overpacks for their first couple trips, and you get up there and finish it, and realized it was a complete waste of weight to bring those items in. So I think I'm still learning. I'd like to think that I'm still learning, but it's always by learning, just doing things the hard way, packing extra weight, realizing you're not using it, and then leaving it at home next time.
Well, there's a couple sayings people have, right? Hard lessons are the ones that stick with you. And when it comes to sheep hunting, what if weighs a lot, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what was in that pack on that first sheep hunt that is no longer in your pack today?
I'll just try to start with gear. Like I have way too much gear just because I'd never been up there. I'm like, what kind of weather we're gonna get? I had no idea. So I have a pretty simplified system now compared to back then. I had a lot of what if clothing, and like you said, it weighs a lot. Food. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I was probably like 4 pounds a day is what my food weight would have worked out to, which is insane. I think what else did I have in there?
I'm smiling, Matt, because I remember our first sheep hunt. Blake and I went in with another young buddy of ours, and I looked through and I found my notes, and I was 4 pounds a day of food. I was exactly 4. I was like, wow, I am not going to freaking starve on this trip. And I think I was the lighter of the 3 guys on my daily food count.
Crazy. I think I brought like a book, like a hardcover book, like all kinds of dumb stuff. And I'm like, why did I bring this?
Probably Dream Rams by Bill Pastoric, one of those coffee table books, right?
Yeah.
So I think
it just you just learn from making mistakes, and I think it just makes you better at what you do. And
yeah,
I've made a lot of mistakes.
A little piece of advice that I'll throw out there, because I started doing this. There's 2 lists you should make when you go on a sheep hunt or a backpack hunt. Make a list of the stuff you put in your pack, and then when you get home, make a list of the stuff that you didn't touch in your pack. Yeah. And make sure those don't go on your list next year, or have good reason to not put them in or if you have to put them in, make sure that you really need to. Tell us about your gear list today, because I know it's a lot different, and I know a few guys that have hunted with you, and they all say the same thing. They're like, Matt's got a system, he's got it dialed, he's got his food figured out, he's very, very organized. So tell us a little bit about your system, kind of top to bottom.
Yeah, I think will find something that works for them, and maybe what works for me might not work for you, but I just have like pretty basic two pairs of underwear, 2 pairs of socks, your pants, t-shirt, a mid layer, and then from there I basically just have my rain gear and my puffy gear, toque, and gloves, and that's all I bring now. And I'll just run that same system almost all year, unless I'm doing late season stuff, then I might throw in some different gear, or some extra warmer stuff. But that's pretty much it.
And where are you at with food for a daily weight and calorie count now?
I think last year I was about I can't remember the caloric count exactly, but I was down to 1.2 pounds per day with like coffee and electrolytes in it, all of my food. And that basically just looks like I would have like an Alpenfuel for breakfast, and a Peak for dinner, and then a couple chocolate bars or a protein bar or something in there for lunch. I don't eat a lot. I just find that I'm not that hungry. Most of the time, not that hungry out there. So yeah, not a lot of food. I think I've always struggled to get enough water in, so I try to focus on that, and that takes away my hunger. But I think as far as caloric count goes, that would be anywhere from like 2,800 to, I don't know, 3,600 calories a day. I think it just depends on what dehydrated meal you're eating, because they all vary in caloric count.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times what happens, just from my experience and talking to people about it, is you'll find sort of 2 schools of thought when it comes to food per day on the calorie count. So if you have like a good backpacker's breakfast, they have a lot of calories. And if you eat a full meal, like a peak at night, that is also a lot of calories, right?
Mhm.
And the guys I talk to that eat, the bigger meal on the back end don't eat as much during the day and will force themselves to eat that meal at the end of the night. Like we talked to our buddy Kevin Willis, and you know Kevin as well. He eats like a bird, but he'll choke that full meal down at the end of the night, and very limited snacks throughout the day. And honestly, I think it's as personal as boots. I think your diet every day depends on what you need to fuel yourself. I'm around that 1.2, 1.3 pounds per day at Blake. I think you're kind of close. You're a little bit more than me, but not much, right?
Yeah, I think I'm 1.4 on the last one, something like that.
Yeah, and the last couple of years I've ran that, and I'm probably in the 600 range of calories. But what I do find is there's a delicate balance there from, having just enough food to going into a caloric deficit to not having enough food at all and bonking. I had a bonk day a couple of years ago and it was hell. Like I just felt like garbage. I had no energy at all. So like you said, Matt, it's the only way you learn it is to get out in the field and test yourself, right?
Yeah, and I think I do. I think I left out this part, but on those I do plan for those big hike-in days. Like if you have a big hike-in day, I'm usually throwing in some extra stuff for that hike-in. Like I might pick up some candy at the gas station or whatever, just stuff to eat. And we usually eat, especially for stone sheep hunting, we always muck a ton of pizza before we go. Always stop at Boston Pizza and buy like 3 extra large pizzas and destroy those before we go in. And on the way out, we usually have our eyes set on Boston Pizza again. So just starve till you just got to make it to Boston Pizza and then eat until you puke.
Yeah, I think the Boston Pizza location you're talking about is the same one that we hit every year, and that's Sheep Hunter Central.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular spot. Yeah. I don't think there's much else there though.
There's not, no. You could definitely that location could do with a couple more restaurants. Let's just say that. How about water? How much water are you carrying or consuming a day?
I do try to drink 3 liters a day if I can, but once again, that's variable to where you're hunting and how much water there is. Sometimes it's not feasible to drink 3 liters a day, so we try to drink like 1.5 to 2, which really sucks if you're having some big hike days in there. If there's an abundance of water, I usually don't pack more than 1 liter, and I'll definitely drink 3+ liters or try to force myself to drink that much. And if we're in spots, I've hunted spots where we've had to pack, like I think we had like 30 liters of water the one time. And yeah, it's miserable packing that. That's a lot of extra weight you have to pack.
Yeah, it sucks too when you get to where you're camped and you're at the top, and you know how hard it was from the point you left your water spot to where you got to the top, and knowing, oh, I'll be back here the next day. So yeah, it's a bit of a grind. What does your sleep system and your shelter look like?
It's changing all the time, to be honest with you. I've tried a lot of different stuff, but when I'm hunting with Millet, he likes to bring his teepee. He's obsessed with that thing.
Yeah,
he kind of refuses to sleep in anything but his teepee. But so we use that a lot of the time. But I think it's hard to beat those Hilleberg tents. They're really nice.
Yeah. Well, it's a partnership, right, with your sheep hunting partner. So it's like being married, which you're about to find out, by the way. Matt's getting married here in the next few days, so congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, thanks.
My advice for you on that regard, it's very similar to sheep hunting with a partner, and that's just pick your battles wisely. Just a little tip for you there.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yep, exactly. What's your strategy on a stone sheep hunt? Are you guys a cover ground type of unit, like cover lots of territory, or are you spending a couple days glassing one spot at a time?
A little bit of both, I'd say. I think I generally don't hunt the same place for stone sheep twice. There's just too much country that I want to see and hunt, and so usually a new spot every year. And yeah, I think if it depends, we'll definitely do a little bit of both. But if we're not seeing sheep where we are, we're not scared to push in as far as we need to find sheep. And then if there's a lot of area to look at, you could definitely need to make sure you glass it and you're not walking by sheep too. So kind of balancing both.
So do you like to spend like a feeding cycle, minimum one feeding cycle in a spot that you think is really promising?
Yeah, I'd say we're usually not more than 2 or 3 days in one spot. If we're not seeing much, we'll just keep moving. I don't know. We're not as maybe not as patient as I used to be, and a lot of the time nowadays we're trying to find bigger, older rams. So we just like to punch ground and see new country. And if we happen to cross paths with one, cool. And if not, we're just happy to be out there nowadays.
So do you think it's more a patience game or a maturity as a sheep hunter when you're not spending a really, really good sheep hunter for the most part has a gut feeling about a valley when they look at it, right? Or a drainage.
Yeah.
Where do you guys classify? Like I know between you and your crew that you guys hunt, that hunts with you, there's a lot of years of sheep hunting there.
Yeah, I think I've definitely been doing it for a while now, but not near as long as the guys that I hunt with. So I definitely I know my place on the totem pole there. And when I try to listen, and sometimes it can be tough because I think when you're in those tough conditions, you can butt heads with your buddies, but I think it just makes you stronger as hunting partners if you can work through it. But
yeah.
I definitely follow the command of the guys I'm with a lot of the time, or take their opinions on what we should do seriously because they've been doing it a lot longer than I have. But I don't know. I think, like I said before, if you're in an area that has a lot of country to look at and there's sign of sheep being around, it's definitely worth putting in the time there. But for us, if we haven't seen much in a couple days, we just keep moving.
Yeah, no, that's good. You mentioned that you like to hunt a different area every year, and I know a lot of guys that do exactly that, and I think it's for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you hit the number one reason is there's just so much country, right? Like, everybody, there's really no secret spots left anymore for stone sheep hunting because somebody has put boots there before. But the country's so vast, it's so big, and there's so many areas. Even if you get in an area where there's other hunters, unless it's like pigeonholed to one mountain or one drainage, then there's always options more often than not to keep on trekking. How do you guys go about selecting the spot you're going to hunt? Like, how did you arrive at where you're going to hunt this year? Talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of historic sheep hunting country up there where big rams have been taken, and I think you can, not to give away anybody's spots, but you can look at some of those legendary books like Built Historics books, and a lot of those books have stories or backgrounds. And I think for us, we want to find big mature rams, and I think genetics are definitely a part of that. And so looking at old stories and pictures and seeing the rams that have come out of some of these spots, it's like, hey, that is a nice ram and looks like really nice country, and let's go hunt it. And we just want to see and cover as much of the ground of the north as we can, so some are new every year.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Those books are just absolutely incredible, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And there's other books out there, but I think I've got all of Bill's books now, and Yeah, I mean, it's just a wealth of knowledge. And even if the stories are short, you see the rams, you see the genetics. There's some, yeah, they tell you some areas. There's no X's on maps. But like you said, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where the good genes are. What would you offer for advice for like a new stone sheep hunter, new to the game, trying to find that first good place to go? What would you offer as a suggestion on where to start?
Yeah, I think honestly a good start or a good place to start is joining the Sheep Society, because there's a lot of guys that get involved with the organization that are new and green and quite often looking for partners. So it's a good place to find guys that maybe don't have a sheep hunting partner and are looking for somebody. And it's also, if you come to the shows, there's some big name sheep hunters in those rooms, and a lot of those guys are definitely willing to help people out and steer people in the right direction. And you can learn a lot coming to those shows. And I think even the seminars, like there's been the last few years, we've had some big names putting on those seminars, and you can learn a lot from those guys too.
Yeah, and again, it's not X's on maps as much as general areas, right? Like you'll get an idea, and you start doing the research. Finding a good partner is always the challenge. We see it a bit here on Spike Camp too. We've had some really positive, I guess, relationships build on the platform. People didn't know each other before they joined, and we've got some very senior, experienced sheep hunters taking, newer people out or helping them with advice. So it's really a community. I mean, it sounds cliche, but Spike Camp's a community, but the sheep hunting community itself is so big. It's so big, but yet it's small. But those shows like the Wild Sheep Society of BC show are just amazing for that. Like you said, the networking and friendships and stuff. They're just an awesome event. One of the things I wanted to talk about, Matt, was finding sheep hunting partners. Now, I know Nick is one of your partners, but in the last couple of years, you've done some pretty amazing sheep hunts and helped some buddies get sheep. Let's talk about a couple of those stories, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, for sure. I to this day still only have one stone and one bighorn. But I've been fortunate to help a lot of my buddies get there first, or whether that's bighorn or stone. And yeah, I'm trying to think on where to start with that, Chuck. But
well, let's go back a couple of years ago. I know you helped one of your buddies get his first ram.
Yeah, Lauren, are you referring to Lauren there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago, I went up north with Lauren and Nick, and yeah, it was once again just a lucky trip. I think I helped Lauren get his first on day 5, and that was an August trip of the year that I killed my bighorn, because I wanted to be home in time to hunt bighorns. So we went in August. But yeah, that was really special for Lauren, because he's always the guy on the camera and never gets to be the guy on the trigger. So it was pretty rewarding to be there with him. And I know he's tried, but he was adamant on killing something old. He said, I won't shoot anything younger than 9. So, and good on him for doing that. And he held out long enough, and it all worked out for him.
Do we have that picture? Did you send me that one?
I think it's in there. Yeah, it's a 9-year-old broom ram. Yeah,
that's it. So
there. That's Lauren and Nick in the photo. Yeah, it was his first nice 300-yard shot. The crazy thing is there was a bigger ram with this one that a guy I know harvested the year after, and I think it went Boone and Crockett. It was like 172, but at the time it wasn't legal on curl, and it was only 7, but it was significantly bigger than this ram.
That is a toad of a ram. And how old was he again?
This one, Lauren's ram, or the one?
Yeah, Lauren's ram.
Lauren's was 9.
Yeah. Oh, he's a stomper.
And the 7-year-old was significantly bigger than this one.
So tell us about this hunt. This was his, how many years did Lauren try to get a stone ram before this?
Oh, I have to imagine it. I think I want to say at least like he must have been close to he pushing 10 years, I bet. Just because a lot of the time he was the guy on the camera and would never have the opportunity to, or he also has the worst luck with weather. He's been on a lot of trips by himself or with his brother where they're just like rained or snowed out and things don't work out. And then he comes with me and it all worked out for him. We had nothing but awesome weather and saw lots of sheep, and yeah, I got it done early.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That is a beautiful mature ram. Was he with another group of rams or was he by himself?
No, there was I think 7 or 8 rams in that band.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how did you end up partnering up with Millick? I always find it fascinating to find out how guys get connected.
Yeah, it was actually through Kyle Southgate. I still hunt with Kyle quite a bit, but we went on a fly-in caribou trip, and we were looking for a third guy just to cut down the cost of the flight. And I didn't know Nick at the time, and Kyle knew Nick and invited him, and yeah, we hit it off on that caribou hunt. And I knew how many, like how long he had been sheep hunting and how many rams he's seen die over the years. So I was really excited to get the chance to hunt sheep with him. And yeah, we hit it off our first hunt together and just haven't stopped since.
We were lucky enough to stop in and visit Nick at his house last year on our way home. And we thought, oh, we'll stop in for maybe a beer and, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. And I don't know, Blake, what were we, 3 hours, Nick's house?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, it was a fun visit.
Yeah, we were hanging out with him and his buddy. They just got back from a doll sheep hunt. They had some rough weather too, but it's amazing. We got to get Nick on. We got to convince him to get on the show and tell some stories because
yeah, he's got awesome stories.
Yeah. How has he played? Tell us a little bit about the influence that he's given you on sheep hunting, because he's certainly in that mentor category for sure, right?
For sure. I don't want to say it's just Nick. I think Kyle has done just as much for me over the years too, as Nick has, but I'd say both of them have definitely helped me just grow as a sheep hunter and improve. And I think it's also a combination of making all those mistakes over the years, but you get out and you hunt with the guys that have the experience that these guys come with, and you just kind of sit back and watch and observe and listen and take in as much of it as you can, and you can learn a lot, and it's definitely helped me grow from doing that.
What do you say the biggest takeaway is for you as a sheep hunter from Kyle and Nick?
I think just the I don't know how to describe it, but like the mentality, like how positive these guys stay even when things aren't going good. They just keep grinding, and I think that was something that I was missing when I was younger. Just you can't quit. You just gotta keep giving her. Even you just gotta battle through all the tough weather, anything tough that's going on. Shit like the stuff at home. If you're going through some stuff at home, it can be tough. You just gotta battle through everything, and eventually you'll get rewarded. And I think I was missing that in the early days of sheep hunting for sure.
So you were taking it a little too seriously, probably, right? Like the whole process and stressing. Yeah, I would agree. I think when you talk to the hardcore sheep hunters or mountain hunters in general that are, the extreme level that are spending these long expedition style trips, I think the key is to like put everything sort of on the back burner when you leave. Make sure you have all of your affairs in order personally, professionally, and try to stay positive and have fun. And I know you guys do. You guys have a good time. Tell us about your hunt with Nick last year. You guys had a pretty special, pretty interesting sheep hunt.
Yeah, it was we decided to do a closer hunt. So we went for the last 2 weeks of stone sheep season, and all 4 seasons of weather. Was definitely had some challenges, I'd say, for sure. We did, so we got on a good ram pretty early in that trip too. I think it was like day 5 or 6 or something like that, and it was my turn up to shoot first this year, and got on this ram and aged him at 9, and was we knew he was a really nice ram, and I ended up shooting and missing at we were busted. I think I shot at like 550 yards, and then I looked at Milik and I said, "Oh, that's a bummer. That was a really nice ram." And he's like, "Do you care if I have a try?" And I'm looking at this ram, and it's like outside of like 650 now. And like, if you think that you can safely hit that ram at that distance, I said, you have at her. And I knew that he had his new gun works and had been shooting quite a bit. And so he laid down and took a shot, and he got that ram first shot, which was incredible, because I think it was probably close to 700 yards when he got it. But we get up to that ram, and it was a lot bigger than we thought. It had 15-inch bases, and it was 40 inches on his good side. He's a little short or he's broomed back and shorter on the other side. But yeah, very, very cool ram. And I was sad that I missed, but yeah, he was happy. And that, I think that is one of his better rams that he's killed. And I think it's been like 10 years since he's been the guy pulling the trigger on a stone. So he was really happy.
And that's a record book ram too, right?
Not Boone and Crockett, but BC book. I think it
book.
dried. Yeah, it dried at like 165, I think, somewhere in there.
Boy, you look at the cape on that thing, just chocolate brown, beautiful sheep.
Yeah. The thing had bigger bases than my Bighorn, though. It was pretty cool.
I was gonna say he almost looks Bighorn caliber. That's unbelievable. What a great ram.
Yeah. And the coats on those things that time of year are crazy. I'd never had my hands on a late season stone. Yeah, they have a thick cape that time of year.
Yeah, beautiful. So what's your preference now? The early season, like opener or closer?
There's pros and cons to each for sure. I think it's tough because I know that if I can go and do an early season stone sheep hunt, like in August, for example, and if I don't find what I'm looking for, then I'm like, or something that I'm really happy with that I want to pull the trigger on, I can just go home and it doesn't take me out of Bighorn season.
Yeah, for sure.
But I find openers definitely a busier time of year, so there's more people in the mountains, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other, but there's kind of pros and cons to both. But I really enjoyed that late season hunt. It was fun. We didn't see any people, saw lots of sheep, but the weather was challenging. My sleeping pad blew up on burst on like day 3, so I had no sleeping pad, and the temps dropped to -10, so I was making moss beds and stuff and sleeping on moss. And yeah, that wasn't very much fun. Just about got eaten by a grizzly.
Yeah, tell us about that. I heard the story, but tell us how that one went. I heard Nick's version. I don't think I've heard yours.
Yeah, so where Nick's ram was, it was across. We were kind of on like a little hill, and then it dropped down and went up to a bigger hill, and we shot across from the smaller hill to the other one. But to get up to the kill site of where Nick's ram was, there was only one creek draw that went through there, and that's where we had dumped our stuff to go up after that ram. And by the time we got his ram off the mountain, it was dark, so we basically just camped where our gear was in that creek draw. And I said, "This is kind of dumb, man. Like, any predator that's gonna come up to get to your kill site there has to walk right through our camp." And Nick's like, "Yeah, I agree with you." So we just decided that we would just camp there for the night and pack up our stuff after we were done dealing with the ram in the morning and take off. And we didn't have any problems that night. The next morning, we were working on the ram about 30 feet away from the tent, and we had our guns with us there and working on the meat, finishing the cape. And I looked up and saw some sheep come back over the top, and the spotter was over at the tent. So I went back to look at these rams through the spotter by the tent and left my gun over by Nick. And I had my eye on the spotter, and I had no idea what was going on. And there's kind of a little bank that comes right out of the creek below me. And I have my eye on the spotting scope, and bullets are flying right behind me. And Nick had actually snapped a knife blade and had gotten up to get another one. And it was just like super lucky because he was going to come to the tent to get another blade. And he got up, and there was a grizzly on all fours, like 7 feet behind me, crouched down, crawling in. And he just started sending bullets at it. Yeah, so super lucky. I think they call that
what was
being
your
caught
first
with your
thought?
dick in your hand.
Yeah, no
Didn't have
shit.
my gun. Yeah. Yeah, I basically went into shock. I didn't know what was going on just until the bullets were flying, and I turned around. There's a bear right there. So I just kind of froze, but the thing took off once he started firing bullets.
So where was your gun in relation to the bear? Like where was it
over
behind you or-
over by Nick, 30 feet away from me.
Holy
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
That's
So,
insane.
Yeah, super lucky. It's a good reminder to never let your guard down when you're out that remote away from civilization, and there's grizzly bears everywhere nowadays. So safety first.
Yeah, I think it's a good rule of thumb now to just have that gun glued to you no matter what, like at all times. Just keep it within reach, right? Like,
Yeah.
it might sound like it's a bit much, but all the bear stories you hear and just the amount of bears that are out there now, and I guess they've always
It
been there,
happens
but
fast. It happens fast too. I think that's just something you're like, oh, I'll have time to go get my gun 30 yards away or whatever if a bear's coming in, but a lot of the time
Yeah.
you don't. And I learned that the hard way and got really lucky this year. So
yeah, for sure. One thing I want to touch on, which might be a bit of a nerve for you, but I've talked to you about it in person down in Reno. Stone sheep hunting sometimes comes with heartbreak. And in the case of this ram, you had a situation where the shot was not executed and you missed. Tell us about that, the emotion involved with that, and what did you learn from that? I mean, obviously something related to shooting, I'm sure, and some training maybe that you want to try and improve on, but just walk me back through the emotions of that. I know it's a bit of a touchy subject, but
yeah,
we've
no,
all had it happen.
Yeah, I was definitely upset about that for sure. I've waited a long time to find a ram that I was happy with shooting, and so yeah, it was definitely a miserable day when I missed that ram, and I'll elaborate on that some more. But yeah, I think 500 or 550. I can't remember how far the shot was now, but something that I routinely do at the range, but I hadn't been shooting as much this year, or leading up to that trip, just because life has been crazy for me the last couple of years. But I don't know if it was just confidence or what it was, but to miss a shot that normally on any other year is like a slam dunk for me. And I think I let that get into my head, and I ended up missing a second ram at like 200 yards, like a chip shot, the same trip, and tried to blame it on my gun and stuff, but of course it wasn't. I got home and shot my gun, and my gun's still where it needed to be. But I think sometimes your confidence can get in your own head, and it just shows how much practicing is important. Like get out to the range and shoot your gun. And I failed to do that, and I definitely paid for it last year. But
Well, the thing is, right, if you miss once, like there's so much pressure, right? It all boils down to that shot. And if you miss once on a hunt like that, it's going to go one of two ways. It's just like golf. If you've played golf, you know what I'm talking about when I reference this. If you've ever shanked a shot on the golf course, like with a pitching wedge at 20 feet from the green, and you send it, dead left, on the next hole, if you have that exact same shot, in your mind, there's a 90% chance you're going to shank that shot again, right?
yeah,
And I think it's safe to say that's probably what happened on the second one too, right? Now it's messing with your head.
yeah,
And
that's
is a tough struggle, right?
Yeah. Once you get in your own head, you're in trouble. And I think I let myself get in my own head and missed 2 shots that I got home and made perfectly the first try at the range when you don't have that pressure on you
Yeah.
anymore. And yeah. So just
I think it's nerves, right? Like it boils
Yeah.
down to, pressure and nerves. So have you come up with a solution on how to train for that since that happened?
No, I'm like a firm believer in getting out and shooting. Like
Yeah.
put the reps in and it's just natural. And I failed to do that. Didn't shoot or train much before the season last year. And it's just funny how it worked out. Like 2 guys on one trip. One guy has like the best trip he's had in a long time, and I just had a rough go. Like my sleeping pad blew up. I missed 2 rounds. The grizzly just about got me.
What else?
I ripped all my puffy gear halfway through the trip. Like it was just kind of one thing after another. And yeah, so just funny. Like Nick had the best trip ever, and for me it sucked. But also fun. Just being out in the mountains is fun. But I shouldn't say it
Well,
sucked, but it was a grind.
I was just gonna say, I'll bet you that the moment you got home, you couldn't wait for the moment when you got back up there.
For sure. Yeah. We start planning right away. Like we get home and we're already talking about the next trip. So
Yeah, it seems to be the way everybody is. We got a couple questions here. Blake, if I missed questions, I haven't really been paying attention, but I see Clay's got a couple. He's wondering what your mode of transport is. Are you jet boat or flying? And I think you do both, right?
yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. I've definitely done quite a few jet boat trips. I've done some flying over the last couple of years, and then I've also done stuff off the highway.
So you've done it all. What about a rangefinder? Are you using rangefinder or binos with a rangefinder?
I just have the Swirl EL ranges.
EL range, beautiful piece of glass.
Yeah.
What are you running for a spotter?
So I just have the ATS 65, but Millik's got the big boy Swirl with the extender. Yep. So we just bring his most of the time. We just need one spotter between 2 guys. Save some weight.
Nice. All right. Did I miss any other questions, Blake?
No, I think you're good on the chat here so far.
What about last question I have for you on actual sheep hunting, Matt? What about physical training? What's your regiment look like?
I do a lot of, like, if I'm at the gym, like if it's like if I only have time to go to the gym because I have a gym at work and I work long shifts, I do like either stair climber or incline treadmill and with weight training, and then I do lots of hiking when it's night, hiking with pack weights leading up to the season. I don't like to do that year round just because it can be hard on your joints, but I definitely do that leading up to the season. And light jogging helps with cardio, that type of stuff. Yeah.
I invested in a stair climber a couple of years ago, like a stair mill, like a 3-stepper one in my house. And that's been the biggest game changer for me because I can basically do a mountain hike every day if I want to. Do pack. It's not so hard on your joints and knees because like guys my age, it's a little hard to jog and run and pound that cartilage that's hardly there anymore. But the stair mill is a grind. And I actually noticed, I see Nick's doing it on at the gym all the time. He's always posting on Instagram with that. So I think that's a great piece of gym equipment to use for a sheep hunter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you've got your stone sheep, you've got your bighorn.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about what you got going on next year.
Yeah, so I am going sheep hunting in the Mackenzie Mountains next year, which has been a long time dream for me to go to the Northwest Territories and hunt the Mackenzies. I'll tell you guys how I got that. For those that don't know, it was down in Reno and bought a couple of entries into the raffles down there and was in shock when my name was called overhead for that Doll Sheep with Gana River in the Northwest Territories for 2026. So super excited. Just have to wait one more year now, but that's okay.
It's amazing. Hey, the prizes. I was standing beside you at the Reno Sheep Show this year when those draws. And remember we were chatting
Yeah.
about it. And there was one guy behind us in the crowd. Didn't he win? The guy won 2 hunts in a row. I don't think any of them were a sheep hunt. But there was
Yeah, he
one guy
won.
yelling and
Yeah,
screaming.
2 in a row. Yeah,
2 in
so
a
it's pretty
row.
cool. Yeah, yeah, and
That must
somebody's got to win, right? And so
yeah.
you just never know if it's going to be you. And I never thought it would be me, and it happened. Yeah, and I was in shock when my name was called. I had to do a double take. I'm like, did I hear that right? Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no
really
shit.
cool, and I'm excited for that.
Well, you think about the value of that prize today, right? If as a Canadian sheep hunter, what's the price of that hunt if someone wanted to buy it today? Like say you wanted a Gannett River Doll sheep hunt.
Yeah,
You know?
so I don't know what the exact prices are. I've heard that they're probably around 60. I want 60 US now. I want to say. I could be wrong. If somebody else knows, feel free to correct me. The problem is the demand is so high that you're booking years out, like 3, 4, 5 years out now. So that with the demand so high, the prices are going to only increase, I imagine.
Well, you and I were chatting about this a while back, and even though it's a free hunt, there's not a lot free about it, right? Like you got some serious expenses to pull this off, even though the hunt's free.
Yeah, for sure. Just travel to and from the Northwest Territories. I didn't realize how hard it is to get there. It's I got to make my way to Norman Wells and then get myself from Norman Wells to Ghana, which those flights aren't cheap. And then also I got to take care of a tip and taxidermy and everything else. So there's still quite the bill attached to that for sure. But super grateful because I would never be going if I didn't win it. And like I said, it's always been my dream to go to the Mackenzies. So
that's the one thing that we're a little lacking here in BC. And we got all these great opportunities for bighorns and stones and limited opportunity for Doll sheep. But I think like there's certainly ways you can get it done, and it's LEH, which you may or may not. You might get the tag, but then you got to find a legal ram. And there's a lot of people that harvest great rams over the years, but there's a lot of people that go through that process, get that tag, and then just can't seem to find the right ram or go through all the challenges involved with that hunt. But I'm super excited for you. I'm really happy that you're able to pull that off, and that'll be good. We'll need to get you back on after that and pick that story apart. So one thing I like to do at the end of every show is kind of quickly bounce through some questions. Oh, I forgot one. We forgot one quick story. If you can summarize this, we need to talk about Walter. I think that's the name of that sheep, right? Walter?
Walter. What one's
Wardo.
Walter?
Wardos.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Isn't it Walter?
No, it's not Walter. He named it something. It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, no, that was really cool. That was a cool trip. We decided to go over to Region 6 and did a fly-in trip out of Iskut into a pretty remote place that Wardo was set on going. He had already had the trip booked with Yonki, and Yonki unfortunately couldn't make it, so he was looking for guys to go with, and we're like, sure, we'll come on a sheep hunt. And I'd never done a fly-in to Region 6 before, and it was pretty cool. And we basically flew in. We think we landed at like 7 p.m. Threw our gear on quick and headed for the top. And we were about 2 hours up and almost at the top, but we didn't want to crest in case there was rams on the backside and we were going to run out of daylight. So we camped kind of at the tree line just off the top and woke up the next morning and went to the top, and those guys are playing with their gear, and I started glassing, and I'm like, guys, like, get off the skyline with your stuff. Like, there's rams right below us, and they kind of moved. They didn't see us, but they worked over away from us into a little basin, and went over to the top of the basin with Wardo, and I poked my head over, and I'd looked at him, like pulled back and looked at him, and I said, "Give me your spotter and go and get your gun." And he's like, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at?" All I can see is a little banana ram, because there was a younger ram there too, and that's the only one he could see. And I looked at him again. I'm like, "Bordo, give me your spotter so I can age this thing and go and get your gun." And he's like, "Okay." Runs back, gets his gun, comes back, and when he was back, we got an age pretty quick on it, and he shot that ram, and it was beautiful. His first ram, double tip, 9-year-old ram. He was really
it's a
happy
beauty.
with that. So yeah, it was really cool to be there with Wardo for his first one.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we slipped that in, but I just realized Blake just texted me here. We're almost out of time, Matt. I think we're going to run out in less than a minute. So I quickly want to thank you for doing this tonight. And most importantly, I want to thank you for all the work you do at the Wild Sheep Society of BC. It's awesome to see young guys like you volunteering. And on behalf of Blake and I just want to congratulate you on your upcoming marriage to that beautiful young lady. So I hope the wedding goes well, and thank you very much. All right, folks, we got a horn aging tomorrow night, Abbotsford Fish and Game, 7 o'clock. Join us on Wednesday. We got a very special episode with a couple of good old school sheep killers. And then we've got Joe Appel on Thursday. And tomorrow night, we're going to announce our contest. So thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. Matty, thank you very much again, buddy.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. See you soon.